Hello and welcome to Fire in the Belly. Today we're very privileged to be joined by Mark Victor Hansen and Crystal Hansen. Good afternoon.
Good
Good
afternoon.
afternoon, Pete.
You guys are afternoon, of course. You're in Arizona and we're about, what, 2 o'clock there?
Yeah, 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
And you're at 10 o'clock at night in Europe right now, right?
Yep. So it's a really global call, so it's great. I love this. So tell me this, I really appreciate you coming on. And just first of all, I'd like to ask you, what does Fire in the Belly mean to you?
I'll go first. I think I was born with fire in the belly. I mean, as a little kid, I wanted a bicycle, sold more greeting cards than anyone, so I learned I had fire in the belly. I saw the Beatles when I was 16. They came on Ed Sullivan. I sang against a rock group, had fire in the belly. Then I got to college and I got under the energy of the brightest man in the planet, Buckminster Fuller, Einstein's best student. And I got fire in the belly to say, how do you make the world work for 100% of humanity? And then I goofed that up a little bit, went bankrupt, and got fire in the belly to become a speaker and have traveled around the world and spoken at 7,000 audiences in 80 countries. Crystal's traveled with me most of those places. And then we got fire in the belly to do books, and we've sold 500 million books, 309 bestsellers, 59 #1 New York Times. And what we've just written, we got fire in the belly to teach everyone how to ask. But I want to let Crystal talk about her fire in the belly first, and then we'll go through any questions you got.
Cool, thank you.
So for me, Pete, I think when I think of fire in the belly, for me, it just is this constant desire I have to evolve. Honestly, I'm always asking for more. I always want more and better, but I think that's human spirit. And I think we're made to evolve. We're made to want more. We're made to ask for more. And it's nothing we should ever apologize for. I remember I was even like that as a kid. My mother, we'd go on vacation and I would grab the list of activities to do, all the things we could tour and see and do. And I like, when are we going to do this? When are we going to do that? One day she said to me, Crystal, we don't have to do everything. And I remember listening to her and thinking, why wouldn't we? Of course we want to do everything because we can do everything. And so that's always been my attitude, is just looking for more, asking for more, wanting more. And I think that's one of the reasons my life always continues to evolve in a really positive way, for which I'm really thankful.
Do you think that was built into you from a child all the way through, just that sort of almost nothing's impossible type?
Yeah, and for me it was like life is kind of magical. Like there's something out there to see that I haven't seen or done, and we should do it because we can. And it's just really, I think I always had a curiosity about life, always.
Well, I love it. So tell us about your book then. Ask, and what's the concept behind it, and what's brought this on now?
Yeah, well, as I said, Crystal and I have been to beautiful Ireland and Europe a lot of times, and we've met all the most wonderful people everywhere. They're always well-educated, they're enlightened, they're entertaining, they're sophisticated, they're fun to be with. But what we looked at objectively is the difference between the people that make it and those who don't make it is the people that make it learn how to become masters at asking. And we did the subtitle, The Bridge from Your Dreams, because all of us have dreams, to your destiny. And we're saying, look, if you're alive, you got a destiny. You may be in a government-imposed shutdown right now, but the fact is you've still got dreams in your heart. And what we're saying is you got to figure out how to handle them, put them in writing, and then go with gusto for them, with fire in your belly to fulfill your potential. We think adversity is a time of the greatest opportunity if you learn how to ask effectively.
Just curious then, what would you say, or what can be used as the ignition point? Because it starts somewhere. You have to learn to, that before you get that, you got to have a dream to begin with, right?
Right, that's exactly right, Pete. And we say there are 3 channels through which you need to learn to ask, 3 channels through which to ask. And those are ask yourself, ask others, and ask God. And we believe each one of those is equally important. And when we did a lot of research, when we study the master askers, the people who are massively successful and have a great amount of satisfaction, achievement, wealth, riches in their lives happen to have mastered all of those areas. They take that journey where starting with asking yourself, because every journey begins with asking yourself if you want to be successful. It's that retrospective journey where you say, what do I really want? What am I good at? What puts fire in my belly? And then how do I find that? How do I connect with that? Who's doing that? And how can I research them, get to know them? what else can I find out about that? And can I envision myself doing that? And then the second part is, you know, asking others. When you go to the second phase of that, it's actually reaching out and connecting with people and saying, could you share with me how you did this? Or what do you think about this? Getting, you know, advice, insights, whatever, sometimes help. And then of course, you know, just globally asking God, you know, what is my greatest purpose? Having that connection to something greater than yourself usually gives your journey so much more meaning and helps you define that journey. And we find that, you know, truly great askers, people who achieve great things, have that connection to a higher purpose than themselves.
Just out of interest, I mean, are people initially seeking permission, or, you know, what is the kickoff procedure?
What an interesting question. So what happens is that most people are masters at asking when they're little kids, but then they get thwarted, stymied, and stifled by saying, "Pete, you ask too much. You're asking too many questions. What kind of kid are you? Just shut up, sit in your class, and take notes, and listen to your teacher because he or she or they know." And you go, "Whoa, I guess I shouldn't have done that one, huh?" I assume because you're doing podcasts that you were good at asking as a kid. Is that true?
Yeah, I did ask a lot of questions, and I still do.
There you go.
There you go. And same for us, except somehow we never got stifled and stopped. So what happens is that, you know, if you have a burning desire, if you got a white hot desire, like when I was a little kid, my dad was Danish and took us to Denmark, and I got addicted to low handlebar racing bicycles in 1957, way before you were born. So, and they were exceedingly expensive, but they didn't exist in America. And I didn't realize he didn't have the money to buy what I wanted, which is like a $7,000 bicycle today, right? One of the touring racing bicycles for the Tour de France. And so I kept hitting and asking, but I didn't get shut down. He just said, "When you're 21, you can have it." So I finally got it. I said, "Dad, can I have it if I earn it myself?" And he was convinced no little 9-year-old can turn around that kind of money. I'm 72 now, so you don't have to do any calculations. And happy and healthy and whole and going to live to be 127 with options for renewal. The point is, I decided to go for it. I read a Boy Scout Life magazine that said you could sell greeting cards on consignment. I said, I can afford that. I went out and started selling. I sold the most ever in a month. Went all the little neighbors. I said, "I'm earning my own bicycle. Would you like to invest in one box of Christmas cards or two?" And we bought 376 boxes of Christmas cards a month. I became the #1 greeting card salesman. I've never stopped selling since then. And it obviously turned into speeches and books, and we own 2 energy companies. So it has been a really good trip because we think everybody can master the fine art of asking.
What is it that a child asks? Why is it so effective, and what is it we lose on the way?
You know, the reason children are born master askers is because they don't have any barriers. They don't have any roadblocks. They've never been shut down. They have the natural curiosity and desire that is part of our human nature. We are each born with this. We are each born curious. We want to know about everything. We want to experience everything. So why not ask for it? Because it is there for us, right? That's the beautiful thing about human nature. And then, like Mark was saying, we get shut down. You know, your parents are, you know, stop asking, or you go to school and the teacher's the authority. You have to, don't ask unless you're called upon. And same with jobs, you submit to authority. A lot of companies aren't open to suggestions or even asking. They're going to tell you what to do. And so it all gets shut out of us. And so we found that there are 7 roadblocks to asking, and that each one of us has at least one of those roadblocks, Pete. And those are, you know, unworthiness, naivete, doubt, excuses, fear, pattern paralysis, or just disconnection. And each one of those is important to address. We tell some beautiful stories in the book about, in those sections, about just people who have recognized those roadblocks and overcome them. And we all need to do that. And it's important for each one of us, you know, when your listeners, if they get the book, to really pay attention to those stories and try to connect to the pieces inside of each of those people that they might be carrying inside of themselves. Because we all, you know, problems are universal. We all have, you know, that we're the same human family. And so we can learn so much from each other's stories, and stories are really metaphors for our own lives, and metaphors are patterns. And, you know, in the work I do as a transformational life coach and hypnotherapist, our brain learns quickly by recognizing patterns. So when we recognize those patterns in other people's stories, we immediately become more empowered in our own lives. And that's the beautiful thing about storytelling and story sharing. Obviously we love stories, you know, the whole chicken soup enterprise is built on storytelling, but that's why it was so successful, because we need that human connection. There's just something so beautiful about that. But yeah, each one of us needs to look at the roadblocks. What holds us back from asking those questions? And the research we did for this book also proved that, shows that we're all afraid. You know, people are typically afraid, and they think going in to ask someone or request someone of something that you know, they'll be perceived as being stupid or ignorant or uninformed or pushy or whatever. And it's just the opposite. There's an 80% chance that if you ask someone, they will be willing to grant your request. So our perception going in, the study shows that our perception going in is the opposite of the truth. The truth is people do like to grant one another's requests. And then your odds of getting your request granted are very high if you're just willing to, you know, recognize your roadblocks and get over those.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Can I ask, I mean, even from is there a particular time period that children go from, you know, or even as adults, we regress back to a point in childhood where we go from being askers to not asking, or we pick up this sort of filter set that we start carrying forward?
First of all, I love the question of filter set, but yeah, so there's three zones. There's you're dependent when you're a little kid up to say 12 or 13, then suddenly you're independent. Do you have any kids?
I do. I have 3 under 3, so.
Oh, well, then
wow. 3 under 3?
Yeah.
And they're not twins and not triplets?
I've a set of twins and a girl, 3 girls. So a set of twin girls at 1 and a 3-year-old.
Congratulations.
Beautiful.
We got grand twins, and we got 6 grandkids and 5 kids. So we're big on kids. So they're dependent. And when they're dependent, they got to ask mom or dad or uncles or aunts or whomever is around, the elementary school teacher, you know, whatever. Then they become independent. Now they know everything, and now they go to their peers and usually get bad information, right? Unless the peers are really sophisticated, which does happen some. And so if we say, look, you become the sum total of the 5 people you hang out with the most. So you want to hang out with people that you can ask stuff to that really have insight and information. And on behalf of both Crystal and I can tell you that when we went through our relative teams, because we spend 24/7, 365, we've talked about it so much. The teens we hung out with were on purpose. They were dedicated. They were asking themselves, you know, how do I go and make a difference that makes a difference, whatever their profession was going to be. And then you become, after 21, hopefully it happens about then to 25, you become interdependent again with your folks, and you start to like them again and go, gosh, mom and dad weren't such dolts. They really had a lot going on. I mean, I've got 4 brothers, and she's 1 of 9. And all of us, you know, talk regularly. I just talked to my younger brother, and the fact is we appreciate our parents more now as we're all post 70 than we ever did before. It's sort of an astounding thing. And if they were here, we have a lot more questions to ask them. So what we're saying is, look, ask them, ask your parents, ask your uncles, aunts, so you really get deep insight into and ask for their wisdom.
Just out of interest, and what sort of come into my head there is, you know, when we move into the world of ego, and how does ego and asking come together, and how can one bypass the other?
I think ego can get in the way, and you know, ego sometimes gets a really bad label. I mean, we all have to have an ego because it's the way we sort of look at ourselves and identify ourselves in this world. You know, I'm this and that and the other thing, but we can get an unhealthy ego sometimes that blocks us from, you know, or prevents us from our own progression and our own blessings and abundance. So I think ego, you know, part of it, ego comes into play in some of these roadblocks. For instance, excuses. We just say some people are just too stubborn to ask, and that is the story in there is a great example of this. But just having that stubborn pride where I don't need anyone's help, I'm fine, you know, I can do this by myself. You know, this stubborn egoic pride where if you were able to let that go a little bit and say, it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to be a human being. It's okay to admit you don't have all the answers. None of us does. And once we recognize that, it's so much more beautiful when a human being approaches you like that and says, I really don't have the answers that I need. Is there any way you can help me with this? What do you think of this? You make friends so much faster than being that person who always knows everything and doesn't need anyone. And so that's a big part of it with this asking journey, really looking. Those 7 roadblocks allows us to examine our ego and how it's playing in, and it could be playing in a negative way to you asking for and getting what you want.
The story we have in the book, Pete, just real quick, is about my older brother, who's 11 years older than me, and he came here to visit us in Scottsdale. He lives back in Tennessee, and he said, "Oh, you got to take me to the airport at 6 in the morning for an 8 o'clock flight." I take him, I drop him off. Now, understand, my perception is that everyone knows how to get through an airport because it's a protocol. I travel we've been traveling up until now, 250,000 miles a year. So you just, and it doesn't matter whether we're in China or Ireland or here. And so I just drop him off. Well, he gets lost in the airport. And he's so prideful. He's super smart, but so later on in the afternoon, I just call and his daughter answers the phone. And I say, to Jody, I said, "Hey, is my big brother home?" Said, No. Didn't you know he's sitting in the airport for 13 hours? I said, "What? He didn't call me. I would have gone back and picked him up." "What do you mean?" He said, "You say he didn't know how to get to the gate." I said, "What?" He didn't, because he's so stubborn. He's prideful because he thinks he should know everything. And the Bible says pride goeth before a fall. Well, the fall, I would never let him sit 13 hours. It was just, my assumption is, I drop you at the gate. You got a little suitcase. We checked in your suitcase. You just walk to the gate. I don't know how, Phoenix is big, but it's only 5 million people. How do you get lost in an airport? I mean, it's not even in my concept to get. I was in China and got lost, but I could never get lost in an American airport.
Yeah. But it's just that pride. And so, and when we're like that, the only one that suffers is us, ourselves. Like if you have that stubborn pride and you're just afraid to ask or not willing to ask, because of course, and Mark had asked him right when he dropped him off, he said, "Do you need help?" "No, I don't need any help. I got this." Because, he's got all the answers.
He's my big brother. I mean,
strong, he's tough. Nah, I don't. And then he refused to ask anyone in the airport. He's just going to figure it out. Stubborn pride. And then, so he sits there. And the sad part about it after that 13 hours, because he had gone on a big panning for gold and fishing trip in Alaska when he had flown through Phoenix, because he loved to do that kind of stuff. And he waited so long, and just the ordeal of the traveling ordeal, he ended up with a little pneumonia after that. So we just see how over and over again, when our pride and our ego get in the way, it's just not helpful.
I mean, it almost seems to go back to like the caveman, it's like, I will ask or I won't ask, or I'm the hunter provider, I don't need to ask. It's crazy.
Yeah.
The hunter provider, though, just metaphorically hit a club over the woman, grabbed her by her hair, and pulled her back to his cave. Today, that's not going to work.
No, you do have to ask, or else you get a deep trouble.
Very important.
I love it. Just out of curiosity, then, in a good question or asking, is there a negative ask or a positive ask? Can it be charged?
Yep. By the way, a negative ask is, right, 1974, I had been with Buckminster Fuller, Einstein's best student, and he invented spherical buildings made out of triangles. I'm building $2 million worth of domes, and 26-year-old kid, and I'm a young hotshot in New York City, built the Wall Street Record Club, and unfortunately I was swallowing my own bath water and thought I was hot stuff. And the oil embargo hit, and I was building out of plastic, PVC, polyvinyl chloride, crashed and burned so fast I had to check a book on how to go bankrupt by yourself, because I asked the wrong question. I said, how do I go bankrupt? Now, it turns out long term, after 6 months of hanging out, I was hiding under the sheet. I sort of, remember, we ask yourself, others, and God. I said, well, what am I supposed to do? I'm supposed to be a communicator and maybe write. I go to my roommates in Hicksville, Long Island, New York. We're living on a little cheap $100 a month rent I'm paying. And I say, any of you guys know a young speaker that maybe is not a celebrity, not a doctor, a lawyer, a famous person? And the guy says, yeah, I'm in real estate, and here's a receipt. Use my name and go to hear Chip Collins talk. And so I go out, and Chip is mesmerizing this audience of 500 people for 3 hours. I ask him, I say, ask others. I say, Chip, can I buy you lunch? He said, I love people buy me lunch, of course. And I said, I want to be what you are, a speaker. And he said, look, kid, chance of making it is 1 in 1,000. You ain't going to make it. I'll tell you what, do if you stay out of my market. My market's real estate. I own the market. I don't want you touching it. I'll tell you, you go over to life insurance, it's a bottomless pit for motivation. You could never talk to all of them, and they recycle 90% a year. I'll tell you exactly what to say, but I'm going on vacation for 2 weeks because I made a lot of money, and I'm not going to see you ever again. But he came back, and I not only did I go out and do what he said and ask, but I had the first 3 years, I did 1,000 talks a year. I'd do them at 6 in the morning, 10 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon, 8 at night, whatever it took, and then sell in between. I had nothing else to do, and I thought I died and gone to heaven. And then they said, "Do you have it in a book?" We put together a little book called Stand Up, Speak On, Win. I sold 20,000 copies at $10 each. I made $200,000. Again, I thought I'd made it. But remember, success is an inside job. It just shows out outside. I had, back to what you said, I had fire in my belly to be a speaker. Then I had a fire in my belly to be an author. Then it accelerated to, now what we want to do is get everyone to learn how to ask. Because if they learn how to ask, they will transform their life. They'll be unique, and their future is inevitably successful.
Can I ask, I mean, both individually, I suppose, would you generally be fear-driven or opportunity-driven as individuals?
I would say each of us tends to be a little more opportunity-driven, but that doesn't mean like we haven't, respectively been really scared and been really down on our luck and been at the bottom. It's not like it was always rainbows and butterflies for either one of us. We both had really difficult experiences in our lives where at the time you feel like you've lost everything, just like Mark's bankruptcy. I mean, he really thought of killing himself. I mean, that's a really serious thing. And if he hadn't asked those questions of himself, like, what do I really want to be? Because he was doing the wrong thing. That's part of the reason he wasn't thriving, is he was trying to be somebody else. He was trying to be Buckminster Fuller and go build geodesic domes. And he never, because he thought that's what I studied in college, he never asked himself, what do I really want to be? But that disaster caused him to look at his life and say, okay, I hate my life right now. I'm dying. I want to kill myself. What do I really want? What do I really want to be in my life? And that triggered the answer, because the research that we did shows that, when you ask yourself a question, a different part of your brain lights up and goes to work for you. And it's the part of your brain that does critical thinking. And so we need to stop and ask the questions more and more, because for him, it led him to a completely different path in his life, one that has now, positively affected hundreds of millions of people. So that's how powerful the journey can be. And then for me, Pete, I think one of my most challenging times was I was one of those kids that high school was really easy for me. And so I accelerated my curriculum and graduated at age 16. Maybe not a good idea, but I married my boyfriend a few months later, who was 5 years older. And 2.5 years later, I'm in a new city by myself, baby on my hip, divorced, and no idea what I'm going to do to support myself. Literally, so I applied for food stamps. That's the only thing I could think of. So I remember showing up at the grocery store that first time and getting ready to turn those food stamps over to the cashier. And in that moment, I had this epiphany, this question just dropped into my head. And it said, how did you get here, first of all? And the second question was, are you doing everything you can to get out of this, or are you taking the easy way out? And I knew it was like a spotlight went on me. I mean, like the psychological spotlight for myself. And I was like, I knew the answer immediately. I knew that I wasn't doing everything that I could to get out of this. And so I had this instant epiphany. And as I was turning those food stamps over to the cashier, I was saying with so much conviction, this will not be my future. I will get out of this. So I went home and I just kept asking questions. And the first one was, how do I start working tomorrow? And it was something called Kelly Services, Kelly Girls. There were temporary service agencies. So I called them and I said, can I apply for, to do temporary jobs? And they said, sure. What are your qualifications? And I wrote down everything. And they would call you up and give you job choices. We've got this 2-day assignment, this 2-week assignment, this 1-week assignment, and you could pick, you could say yes or no. So I started doing some jobs, and I realized there were 2 other temp service agencies in town. And so I decided to register for all of them. I didn't see any rule that you couldn't. That would give me more options, So started doing all these jobs, and I started learning something about myself. I was pretty good at business. I was good at sales because I was doing, setting up mall booths and doing sales for conventions and working in attorneys' offices. And I realized I really like people and I like business. And so I decided to go to real estate school to get my real estate license. And at the same time, someone had said, you should do some modeling. So I approached the modeling agency, asked them if they would sign me. Fortunately, the biggest one in our valley did. And I did some television commercials that ended up going national. So I, got Screen Actors Guild benefits for me and my son. So literally a year and a half from the time that I had turned over those food stamps, a year and a half later, I was now working for the biggest home builder in our valley selling real estate. I became the #1 realtor, and I had these television commercials running that were paying great insurance benefits. So that was such a pivotal experience for me because I often think back about that. What if I had just caved into my distress? I had a lot of reasons to do it. I had a lot of good excuses. I'm a young mother. I have a baby. I don't have any help right now. But I'm so thankful I didn't. I'm so thankful that I asked myself those tough questions and that I followed the answers, because sometimes we have to parent ourselves, in this life. I mean, we're the only one who's going to do that sometimes. And so are you willing to do that for yourself, to help yourself rise to the next best place? Are you willing to ask yourself those tough questions and then answer them and follow that journey to your destiny? Because just like Mark said, it's literally, that's why we said it's the bridge. Asking is the bridge from your dreams to your destiny, because we all have dreams in our hearts. We all want great things. And it's good. It's human nature to want those things. But are you willing to ask? Are you willing to take this asking journey? And we're asking everyone right now to take the journey with us, because you will see your life magically unfold if you do.
That's beautiful. I'm curious, as you were speaking there, and I suppose I'm very fortunate I get to speak to a lot of people who are successful for various reasons. And a lot, there seems to be there's a particular event or a low point. And the expression, to know the light, you got to know the dark.
Yeah.
What happens to question sets in that dark spot? Do you know? I mean, is it something you ever looked into?
By the way, first of all, I've never heard the question quite like that before, so I like it. What I said to you in response to your other question I'd never heard before is I think you go into the dark asking the wrong questions. You come out of the dark asking yourself, what is my right livelihood? What is it that I love doing? What is it that I'm passionate about? What is it that I can be substantially paid for by creating a massive amount of value? And seeing as very few people wanted to speak, and I thought it would be the delight of my life. It's like, everyone's got something in them, whether it's music or art or speaking or sales or podcasting.
Or accounting.
It
could be anything.
I wrote a book called 1 Minute Millionaire, and I said, look, there's a million ways to make $1 million. There's no right way, but there's one right, easy, perfect, and acceptable way to you. And everybody would be better off if you find that. And what we're saying in Ask is we're saying, hey, look, everyone has a destiny, and it's your job, your occupation to find it. And once you find it, you're going to feel good. You're going to come out of that dark, hazy doldrum and go forward. And a lot of people are stuck in this, government imposed incarceration, literally 8 billion of us. And we are saying, and it's pretty pompous maybe, but everybody's got to reinvent themselves. We got to reboot, just like your computer once in a while has got to get reboot to add this stuff. You got to reinvent yourself. And what I said to you earlier is 30 million Americans are lost their jobs permanently. I mean, they're not coming back. I mean, the airlines, we got to have them come back. But, some good part of them is gone. The auto industry's gone. Restaurants today, Marriott says, are 95% done. They're wondering if they're going to go today. Hertz Rent-A-Car went bankrupt in America. I mean, we're having some serious big businesses like Needless Markup, Neiman Marcus went bankrupt. I mean, just serious stuff that if you'd asked me that 3 months ago, I would say, Pete, come on, can't happen, man. Right. We're dealing with a rockin' world. I mean, 8 billion people were traveling. Everybody loves it.
It's crazy. It is crazy. I mean, the entire, as you say, the world to come to this position is, well, it's unheard of, and I think something we'll speak about in history.
Right. But I think back to your question, Pete, just really quickly, when what Mark was saying, those questions, you get to the darkness by asking kind of the wrong questions, and sometimes in the darkness new questions emerge. And I think in this sort of darkness that we've all been experiencing, these difficult times, new questions are emerging because we're realizing new things, which is what always happens when you're in these difficult situations. You know, in the United States, I promise you, no one had any idea that 99% of our drugs that we depend on for life are being manufactured by a country who doesn't necessarily have our best interest at heart. You know, that all of our Advil is manufactured there. That's not even safe. That most of our medical supplies and equipment is manufactured in China. So we're all saying in the United States, how in the world did we get here? Where we're allowing someone who doesn't have a country that doesn't have our best interest at heart to take over our lives, our safety, our health. These questions are bringing a brand new opportunity because plans are being made right now to totally redo our supply chain, to relook at our manufacturing. Now stop and think about that. Ask that question. Where are these new opportunities? How can we all find them? How can we start looking at them and start participating? Why don't we do this differently from now on so we, countries like Ireland, the United States, can feel safe and can feel, you know, have a better measure of control and safety and standards for the products that are being made? And shouldn't we be forming tighter coalitions with these countries like ours who have all of these things in common? We share values. We share common values on human rights, on safety, on all of these things. Shouldn't we be coming together and forming even greater coalitions? So there's so much opportunity here, we think, going forward. It's just, you know, we've all had to experience this sort of retraction.
Out of interest, I mean, would you say your own values have changed at all during this time?
Well, here's what I think, first of all, I'm going to just talk for me. I'm a radical optimist. Everybody that is listening, if they go, we'd love to give a free book called How to Be Up in Down Times. It's at my website, markvictorhansen.com.
Oh, it's not up yet. It's not up yet.
It'll be up in 2 days. So,
but you can get it. You can reach out on reception at Mark.
Yeah, reception at markvictorhansen.com, and you get it free. How to Be Up and Down Times. But what I'm teaching is the value of where we're going to go. We're going to do 50 trillion, not billion, $50 trillion worth of new business of 7 businesses I'm going to tell you about. I'm going to just tell you one in this decade. And one of them is we're the advisors to a company that's QCI in Michigan. Guy spent $300 million, 20 years. And my cliche is turn trash into cash. Everybody creates 5 pounds of garbage a day. You don't have to count it. You just do it. We all do it. The trouble is our landfills, there were no landfills before 1950 because we didn't have that big a population, so we didn't care. But now they're full, and the only hope is that we recycle every atom, and we now know how to do it. We can take metal back to metal, plastic back to plastic, water back to water, fuel back to fuel, and we're going to be resource rich. But just in America, that's 22 million people we need right now just for that once we get out of this. And he's in a state where the governor is misthinking it, it seems to me. She's not letting anyone work until June 15th, which I go, you got no right to do that. We got a constitution that says life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness and freedom. So the bottom line is, I don't know, what is your population in Ireland?
We are, what was it, about 7 million all in, north and south.
So you got 50,000 jobs right now waiting as soon as we do this. Isn't that interesting? That's just one of 7 industries that are going to explode, like robots and cobots. And we're in the best time ever if we get out of this malaise and doldrum.
And we will. It's, you know, we have to.
No, definitely.
The spirit is fierce. And I think, you know, we all need to remember that. We need to rekindle that and not collapse into the fear. That's never the right way to do it.
Definitely.
I'll do one quick factoid. I'm a fan of Ronald Reagan. And Ronald Reagan said 20% of Americans were Irish. Did you know that?
I didn't.
I don't know if it's true, but he said it, so I can assume it was
good
true.
Good genes, right?
You guys are hard work.
There's a multiplication factor there that's kind of scary. You know, you've come from, well, I mean, the population from Ireland at one point was something horrendous. It was double what it is now, but yeah, it's amazing. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
So tell me, out of interest, I mean, when you were actually going to write the book, did you have to learn how to ask a more basic question? Because I'm sure over the years you've you've evolved how you ask a question, but to be able to help people to put it into plain English or plain speak, did you have to go back?
I think we had to reflect back on what those questions were throughout our lifetimes, and really, what were those pivotal questions? And they are basic questions. That's important to remember. Like, what am I best at? What do I like? Because those two things really have to come together to create something that's really dynamic for you to do. If you're good at something but you don't like it, that's probably not going to be a success. Like, I'm good at bookkeeping, but I don't like it. So I'm not going to be very successful at bookkeeping. But Jen, my bookkeeper, is good at it and she loves it. For her, it's like a puzzle, and she loves getting her clients' stuff together and making sure it all reconciles. And that makes her happy because she feels like she's a part of a bunch of, several businesses. And so it's different for everyone. So
the third part to what you said is you got to find out what you love. And if you don't know, number two, what you're best at, ask 10 of your friends, tell me what I'm best at, because they see you, they can perceive you as you cannot perceive yourself. But the third part, the base of the triangle, is the critical one. What can you get paid substantially for being passionately on purpose about, with fire in your belly, as you like to say?
Mm-hmm.
Tell me, it was an interesting point there. I mean, would you say your gift and your passion will be the same thing, or could they be separate?
Could be separate, but look, if you do it and make it like we've made it, I absolutely love writing. Well, let's go back one phase. I love thinking, I love writing, and I love speaking. I mean, and it has made it perfect. And then we happen to both make it from a triangle to a tetrahedron. We both happen to be really good at business, and all these people come to us and say, well, help turn trash into cash, will you? And everybody. And, as the world's best-selling author, having sold 500 million books, my goal is to sell 1 billion, which will happen because I'm going to stay alive and get a high quality life. Is it, at least I think it will. And the publishers are really thankful for what we're doing. And the bookstores, when they open again, will be thankful. Or I think they will. They have been historically. So it is fascinating, Gus, that we want everyone to be in their right livelihood, something they're passionate about. Well, like, we love getting up. I can tell you unequivocally that when we learned to ask questions and we started thinking this through, it burst thoughts. Like, we wake up every morning and we pray and meditate together for an hour, and we ask each other questions. And during that, and illumination comes to both of us. And I just pull out the smartphone and I tape record her, or she tape records me, because we go, oh my gosh, we got to do this, and this. And your path unfolds if you learn how to ask. Did I answer your question, sir?
You did. No, it's absolutely. I was curious because, I mean, you take bookkeeping for example. Some people are good at it, but it doesn't mean they want to do it. And it is curious. But I think, as you were saying there, Mark, when you can learn how to ask the right question, that actually naturally you can align the two. So
exactly, and it's all about taking the time to do that, because we all get kind of rolling along in our lives on that hamster wheel. And sometimes we're not really happy, we're not satisfied, or we know there's something better for us, or something more satisfying even. And it's not going to be revealed until we take that time. That's why we take that hour in the morning, Pete. We're encouraging everyone to do that. Take the time with yourself. It is the best time you could ever spend, because so much will be revealed to you about your life if you spend time with yourself and ask yourself those questions.
If I were to rewrite your question about fire in the belly, I'd just turn it into a question and say, what's your fire in the belly? Not that you don't ask all of us that, but I mean, I think all your listeners got to do that. What is the fire in my belly that I love to do, that I'm best at, that I can get paid substantially for, because it exists, and it is in the inner resources of your mind. Whatever you impress, you express. And all of us are born rich with 18 billion brain cells. So we got to ask, what is it, my fire in my belly, that I desperately want to do, that I'd really be good at, that I love, and I'll make my spouse happy, my kids happy, the whole world be happy.
It's mad. I mean, I get to speak to so many people, and I mean, listen, some people love, buildings and construction and property. Somebody else loves to knit and do tea cozies, and it's bizarre. As you say, we're all human flesh, but yet we attach passions to different things for some bizarre reason.
Right, and that's a beautiful thing. In fact, I think about, my daughter's a school teacher, and she often talks about the janitor there. What an incredible man he is. Everyone is in love with this man. He's the sweetest guy, and he makes the teacher's life so much better. He goes above and beyond the call of duty. because teachers need a lot more than they get. Usually they're underfunded and there aren't enough resources. So if they need something done in their classroom or special things, he'll take the time, he'll build things for them. And it's his passion. He loves doing that. And he knows what's beautiful about that is he is connected to his higher purpose in that he's not just a janitor, he is improving children's lives. He is a part of their education. And so the fact that he can see that and be in touch with that, and that feeds and fuels his passion as the janitor of the school is such a beautiful thing. You know, so it's different, like you said, for everyone.
What you're saying is everyone can be great because we can all serve greatly, but you've got to have your fire in your belly in alignment with whatever it is you're doing.
I think alignment to me is the absolute key.
Yeah.
And not only that, it is, you know, and I turned 40 last year, and
happy birthday.
Thank you. And the one thing, I made it to 37 and a half years, and I had a massive shift and a tipping point there. And for me, it was a point in my life where I said, I knocked down all the filters, and I said, listen, my perception of what other people think of me and all the rest. And as you mentioned earlier, it's like the best question or the best statement you can say is, I don't know. But I'll ask a man or I'll ask a woman who can.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah, the subset of what you're saying is that once I knew, I had a mentor to Chip Collins, you know, and we met every week on 4 o'clock on Friday afternoon, and he'd say, okay, tell me exactly what you did. And he got no pay or anything, but, you know, I'd have notes and I'd say, I booked this, I went here and I got this company and I got Metropolitan, all that, blah, blah. And you need somebody that holds up the mirror and says, you're doing great, or you could do better, or, you know, here's the way around that problem, or when they said no to you, here's the way I would have handled it. And seeing as he is, you know, I think it was 7 years more experience as a speaker, he knew every answer, because there's you know, in graduate school, I learned systems theory, and every system is like a circle. There's an inside and an outside, and I was outside learning inside. And right now, like the other thing we've done is we've just done a virtual seminar on how to become a best-selling author. Just if they go to markvictorhansen.com, they can see what we're doing. But the point is, there's nothing you can ask me about speaking that I don't know. And probably, seeing as I've been going to all the meetings at American booksellers with 60,000 authors and publicists and agents, and I know almost every best-selling author in the world, and I've outsold most of them because that was my goal, right? They never had a goal to outsell me, but I had a goal to be number one in the world. So, you know, and so I've done it, and they're great authors. I mean, when we go to Ireland, we've been to more funeral, great plots of great Irish writers, and, you know, Murphy, and, you know, and it's great fun, and God bless you guys, because you guys are great authors in that great country.
Interesting. Can I just ask, and I don't mean to intrude if it is, but do you guys have similar or matching values?
We do, and we feel very blessed by that. We both were married before, and we have found that this marriage, our marriage to each other, is one of our greatest gifts because of that very reason. We have matching values to the point where, you know, we wake up every day and we both kind of see the world in the same way. We want to contribute. We want to, you know, suck up everything we can from life and live it full out in every way. We want to experience adventures. We want to connect with people. We want to try new experiences. We love traveling the world together. We love contributing, and we love being creative. And we want our creations to be of a benefit to people, to humanity. So it's really fun to have that. You know, it really works for us as a couple. We're really thankful. And of course, we cherish our kids and our grandkids, love playing with them, spending time with them. So yes, I would say that has been hugely important to us and the success of our relationship, Pete.
Perfect. Thank you for sharing it. I didn't want to intrude, but no, it's
no intrusion at all.
Yeah.
No,
before, because she said we were both divorced, and I thought I'd probably never marry again, but secretly I'd written 267 things I need in my wife, because everyone goes, I want her to be beautiful, or I want him to be tall, dark, and handsome. Well, you and I are sort of hairless, so that isn't going to happen. There's 4 kinds of hair: in, thin, fuzz, and was, and I'm into was. But I wrote down one of the things is that we had to share the values, and our kids had to get along with each other, because, you know, we've been together a long time, but our kids were going to be adults probably, and they had to get along. So all those kind of things, we had to have the same spiritual values. We had to have the same financial values. She had to own her own company, so she knew how to make money by herself. She had to want to travel because for whatever reason, both of us have wanderlust. And the way I define that is we want to see the whole world. I mean, we got written down, there are a lot of places we haven't been yet in Europe and Croatia, all kinds of places. A lot of Asia, we've been to heavy Asia, but and some in Latin America, right? We've been to Guatemala and that, but we got a lot of places in Costa Rica, but there's a ton of places we want to go. But both of us had to have those values or it wouldn't work.
Right. Out of curiosity, and you've seen all the different world and questions you can ask, and all the rest. The questions, can they all be categorized into certain types or sectors?
Well, I think, sort of the way we've categorized it, that the channels through which you ask, like they're the questions you ask yourself, ask others, and ask God. And I think that's one way to really categorize how you're doing this. So the ask yourself is all about self-discovery and defining your own life and purpose. Asking others is really about how you can tap into other human beings as a resource. And how that, that can be reciprocal, because it's important to remember that when we ask something of someone, we want to always try to provide some value of our own. That's what makes it balanced. That makes the circle really balanced. And quite honestly, people love, as we said before, people love to help other people. And we have a whole section called being a granter of wishes. And then the other section, of course, is asking God, just really asking the questions that lead you to an understanding of the greater purpose. What is the greatest purpose that you can fulfill in this lifetime? And one of my favorite questions for myself is, God, will you show me how to be the best expression that you made me for? Because we were all made for something. So it's like when you can reveal that, ask for that to be revealed to you, you really start to become in touch with life at a whole different level, a much more meaningful level, we really believe.
Is that an intuitive level, or is it different?
Yeah, I really believe that when you tap into God, your intuition rises dramatically, because there is so much beyond what we can see in the physical world. And that can even be proven by science. If you really, I studied quantum physics a lot as a transformational life coach and clinical hypnotherapist. I do a lot of research on the mind and on manifestation and how and why it all works. And why does belief work? And why do affirmations work? And there is a real scientific explanation to all of that. And you can find it through quantum physics, because when it comes right down to it, an atom and protons circulating around, but electrons are really not things as so much as they are probabilities bursting in and out of existence. And they only happen when they are observed, which gets really mind-boggling. It's when scientists do this, they look at the particle and the wave. If they're looking for a particle, they see a particle. If they look at the wave, they see a wave, which tells us a lot about creation and about our role in creation. We're creating in our minds what we're getting. So I tell people, look at your life, look at the life around you, and you will see what your mindset has been up to this point. And if you want to change what's out there, do not think it's going to happen outside of you. It has to start right here. You're going to start changing it right here by working on yourself, by asking these questions, by digging deep and understanding. And there's a section we have called how to prepare to be a good asker. And that is, first of all, belief. You have to believe that you are going to receive the things you want. If you don't believe it, it won't happen. I mean, that belief is powerful. It sets things in motion. And then, of course, action. You have to take action around the things you're asking for, because you can't just ask for things, hey, can I have this or that, and then sit on the sofa within a blanket and say, okay, I hope it happens, right? Because there's a whole world of action and activity, and you have to jump into the middle of that quantum soup and find out, what it is. If you want to be the greatest singer, you better get out there and do your research. Who is the number one singer? What are they singing? Why do people like it? What are they doing? And what are you going to do? that is similar to that can put you out there in an action way to get what you want. And then the third part of preparing to be a good asker is visualization. And Mark and I just so believe in this so profoundly, like the power of your imagination and your ability to visualize your life and your future is so instrumental in what you will end up with. So in that time that you take in the morning, make sure you take the time to, what we like to do is say, in my ideal world, what do I want? You know, if it's relationship, just like Mark did in relationship, he said, in my ideal world, what do I want in a relationship? And then he worked it backwards. I want this, I want this, I want this.
And she was 267 out of 267. But I never told her what I wanted until after she married me. And I kept asking her, will you marry me? And you said,
yes.
Thank God. Who was?
Here we are.
Sometimes I was shaky.
Yeah, but it's the same for anything you want in your career, you know, so think of your ultimate, like, if you can start imagining it and asking yourself those questions, then write down your greatest vision for yourself and then start engineering it backwards. How did I get there? Who did I ask? Who's doing what I want to do? What does it look like? How will I talk to them? How will I meet them? How will I connect with these people? How will I get my audience? How will I make these sales? How do I create the best product that will get people's attention? You know, and it's just a beautiful way to go. So it is important to prepare to be a good asker. And that's in the book as well.
Out of curiosity, is there a process to almost bypass the ego or bypass the conscious mind in the visualization state, so that you say, right, well, I know generally I'd sort of say to people, think 10 years ahead, because the conscious mind sort of goes, that's silly, but yet you can still visualize. Is there a good asking?
First of all, you can think even further ahead. I mean, Jack and I used to do, you know, we got a bunch of honorary doctorates, and we're out in one of the big schools in Iowa, and he is in front of these people, and he said, look, meditation, where you go into the deeper inner resources, most of you are good at going, you know, a month ahead or a week ahead, you know, year ahead. But what Mark and I are going to teach you is, why don't you go 1,000 years ahead? 1,000 years from now, what do you want people to be saying about you? And we wrote it out, and we were prepared. And you know, I want my book series to last for 1,000 years, and our video series, you know, people watch it and it'll be antiquated, of course, and they'll say, oh, all you guys had was podcast, big deal, you know. How stupid is that, right? But at the time, it was the best thing that existed. And as a matter of fact, we got dreams for what's possible in podcasts. Like, I'd like to put all the podcasters together on one day and get all us to talk about free enterprise and entrepreneurship, where you take low value, make it high value, to the marketplace of future, and create a fortune for everyone. Because we've got to come out of this doldrum. The doldrum is where the wind's not blowing. And all this government-imposed incarceration, the wind is not blowing, like we were talking about when we were off set.
Absolutely. Just a couple of things to wrap up, because I'm conscious of time. Can you give us an idea of what's a great question to ask yourself, ask others, and ask God?
Well, the question I would like is make it an ask challenge. And we're going to challenge everyone to get a copy of the book. And because bookstores, for the most part, are still closed, at least in America, and I don't know about Europe, but get a copy at Amazon Europe, and then send us a receipt at reception@markvictorhansen.com, MarkVictorhansen.com. And what we're going to invite you to be part of is,
we have a book club discussion. So we thought it'd be so much fun to do the world's biggest book club discussion, because we want to invite people in to talk about how ask applies to their lives and just talk about the book. So we thought that would be a lot of fun. So reach out to us and we'll send you an invitation. We're giving everybody time to read the book because it just was launched. But yeah, reception@markvictorhansen.com.
That's awesome.
So we want everyone to become master askers in answer to your question.
So it's like, yeah, it's almost like a Q&A session, except as questions and actions instead of questions and answers, right?
Right.
Well, we think a lot of people are pretty good at the questions. A lot of people are pretty good at, you know, watching 2 podcasts ago. They're saying, well, everyone watched The Secret, but they forgot the thing. You got to take some massive action. Like,
right.
You know, the first 3 years of this business, I did 1,000 talks a year, you know, and only Tony Robbins and I, as far as I know, did that many talks. No one has been as disciplined as I have to do media each and every day. And that's why all my books keep selling. And everyone says, well, wait a second. I don't want to beat up any of the book companies in America, which I'm with, one which is a $25 billion company that's crumbling right now in New York City. And it breaks my heart because these are friends of mine. We're not enemies in the book business. The book business is a tough business, and I'm good at it, and I'm thankful, but I want them all to succeed. Well, we got to open up bookstores again. We got to open up bookstores at airports, which means people have to start flying again. So it hurts my heart that they laid off 8,000 people. This means stuff to us. This isn't a joke. These people are in pain. We get calls by people that we really love, respect, and admire. Some of them are called relatives, and because we have the capacity and the ability to write, we've written to try to transform them and the problems.
Well, yeah, it's different times. Let's say, you know, it's how you choose. To summarize, then, if I was to ask you for what your fire in the belly is in 1 or 2 words, what would it be for each of you?
Crystal.
Squeezing the most out of every single day.
That's not 2 words, but I'll let you away with it.
Short sentence, Pete.
Fulfilling my destiny. That's 3 words, I think.
Wow, that's awesome. That's awesome. Listen, I'm really looking forward to when the book comes out, and you know, reading it there, asking great questions, and taking part in the book club is going to be fantastic. So
good. It's out.
So
it
it's
looks
out
like
now.
this. This is what it is. It's a
It just launched.
sweetheart of a book.
Yeah.
So I don't know how fast we're going to get there, but Amazon's shipping them to Europe. So
Yeah.
you'll get it, or you can get it on Kindle immediately, like that.
Yeah.
I have my 5 copies ordered already, so I'm looking forward to it. So
Thank you.
Fantastic.
no, it's an absolute
Very kind
privilege.
to do that. We're elated.
Thank you so much.
I hope you get everybody's fire in the belly to read Ask.
Definitely. I think it's, to me, that's what it is. I believe everyone has it inside them, but the question is, what do you do with it?
That's right.
So, Mark, Crystal, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And yeah, best of luck with everything. I'll look forward to talking to you again soon.
Delighted
Thank you,
to be with you,
Pete.
Mighty
We
Pete.
loved it.
Thank you.